and once again, welcome to the Far From Normal Radio Show. I am your host, Jay Moss, and I've got with me, as always, Mr. Bud Vino.
Yo, 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 and yo, my brother from another mother, J Money Moss, May 8th, 2018. Are we here already, Jay? And you can feel spring in the air, Jay, here in New Hampshire. And I'm fortunate, as you know, Jay, I live right on the lake, and I figured before the show, I'd go take a quick lap around the house, take in some nice air, and I did. And I came in, and I felt something, and I knew right away there was a tick crawling right up the back of my neck, Jay. And it's funny because the smaller something is like that, I can take on a lot of things, and I'm like a 12-year-old girl with a tick on the back of my neck. I'll admit it. So anyway, so that was my excitement just before the show. It woke me up. Not that I wasn't already, Jay. Our sister from another Mr. Exciting. She had energy as she always does. Jessie Weiner, welcome. Happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. It's been like 90 degrees here every day for what seems like forever. So
it's been beautiful here, Jay. Nice breeze, and it's been in the lower 70s. It's been nice after a rough winter. So I'm welcoming it. Although I'm going to call it Tickless Tuesday because I can still feel it. And I was on the ground with my lighter and I can hear it pop. It was exciting. That's always a nice sound. So,
awesome.
That's disgusting.
Oh, it was awful. I can still feel it. I know it's not there. And it's awful. So, Jay, we have an awesome guest lined up tonight. Exciting show as usual. We're less than 2 weeks away from May 20th.
Yes.
Equal shared parenting event in Washington, D.C. Be there or be square, folks. Exciting.
Definitely. We'll give you a lot of details about that coming up during our half hour or our hour break here. And we'll bring in another exciting guest in the second hour. Make sure to stay tuned for Eric Sinderman in that second hour. But definitely we want to get right into our main guest for this evening here, Mr. Blair Dunn, out there in New Mexico. How are you doing this evening, Blair?
Doing awesome. Now I gotta ask, did the tick say IRS on the back of it?
It must have because I can still feel it. It's still breathing on the back of my neck. It's eternal, Blair.
It's that time of the year.
Yeah. Oh, it is. Hey, welcome, Mr. Dunn.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
As we said in the pre-show, we were checking out a lot of your stuff in the past few days since we knew you were coming on, and you definitely are shaking things up there in New Mexico. So thanks for taking the time out this Tuesday. Thank you.
Oh, I appreciate being here. It's great.
Absolutely.
Yes, amazing guest, because you are running as the Libertarian candidate in New Mexico for Attorney General. That's in a very, very important position, and I want to let you explain why that is so important, especially to those that are within the movement.
So if I could sum up why I'm running for Attorney General, I would sum it up this way. For too long, especially here in New Mexico, our government has believed that they are above the law, that all of those laws apply to those of us, in the court system or just the average citizen on the street. What we don't have is an attorney general that requires the government to follow those same laws, including the judges and the judiciary. So why it's important to this movement is that absolutely we need judges that follow the Constitution, that respect that all parents have that fundamental equal opportunity to parent their children, not favoring one or the other, and that no matter who you are in the court system or in general, we are all equals, and the government should follow that law, and the judges especially should follow the constitutional authority that's set out for them to follow, rather than putting their own mores and their own wishes and their own agendas onto people that appear in the court system. So that's the main reason I'm running, is to actually finally give a voice to people that want to see the judges and the government follow the law, rather than just all of us law-abiding citizens follow the law.
That's absolutely wonderful, because we have so many people who are going through these situations, and I know that one of your main precedents coming forward, obviously your father's running for, is it U.S. Congress? Is that correct?
U.S. Senate. Yeah.
U.S. Senate. Yeah, and so you having this view, and probably he does as well, with Title IV as being what it is, and we always say Title IV. That's the big elephant in the room, but let's be quite honest, it is what we need to kind of maybe start calling this is Social Security fraud, because we not only have Title IV, but we've got 13, 16, 20, whatever, and it keeps going on, because it's just a repugnant situation that perpetuates itself. But
Right.
within Title IV specifically, we want to repeal that act. Is that correct? Or completely abolish it? Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And this is where, our libertarian leanings really kind of show through. Certainly when you look at Title IV, anytime you're incentivizing the government to do the wrong thing or to do something that the government was never really designed to do, those are places where we have to make some changes in this country. We can't afford the kind of debt that this country is running up. Education's another great example. My dad's very passionate about education. Our children's educational system is failing largely because we take and we tie those federal dollars that they take from us in taxes to these testing standards and these things that ultimately aren't helping our children learn and figure out how to become productive members of society. That's something that we need to really work on in the U.S. Congress and our federal government is removing not just the Title IV, because it needs to go for sure, but any of those other places where the federal government has gotten outside and they're using their money and their power to basically harm our families and our children and the citizens of our country. So he's absolutely in favor of getting Congress and the Senate and shrinking down all of those things, if not abolishing a host of unnecessary and unworthy federal programs. So.
That's absolutely wonderful, because I know that when we started out kind of researching Title IV, we found out that it was passed right before Gerald Ford was about ready to go out of office, and the Office of Child Support became the Office of Child Support Enforcement, and that all happened because of the fact that they signed in Title IV-D and E, and what they went ahead and did is Gerald Ford thought that this is going to be a temporary fix to help some people out. Unfortunately, what had happened and transpired is, as soon as they built the department, it started interweaving itself into every other department, and it became to the point where it started running every other department because the funds that were coming into it. So when we talk about this monster, we just found out this week, Jesse did some wonderful research, and we found out that this is now a $3.9 billion a year enterprise that is built off of the fact of keeping children away from parents, good parents, maybe fit parents. Some, sure, we have those situations that come up where maybe a parent should not be with that child, but on the most part, we're really talking about good fit parents that are just being taken away. So I know that you talked about also reforming the family courts. Do you have a process maybe to do that, or is there maybe it's a hey, let's blow it up and start all over kind of situation?
I do think that what we're seeing in some of the other states, I know in your state in Illinois, there's the Equal Parenting Act that are making their way through the system. Some states like North Dakota and others are getting closer to that. Texas has gone to a 50-50 system unless there's a really good reason not to. I think those kinds of reforms absolutely need to start happening. The problem, especially here in New Mexico, is that unless there's a really serious crisis, our legislature, well, I guess this is true everywhere. I shouldn't say that's only in New Mexico, but our legislature doesn't do anything. And unless it's pointed out why this is wrong and why it violates, for instance, equal protection to give to one parent more rights to rear the child than another parent, the legislature is never going to change the system. So what I view the Attorney General's office as a platform to really address those violations of those constitutional principles by judges, for instance, equal protection, so that when it gets to the legislature, I can show up in front of the legislature as the Attorney General and say, right now, what your judges are doing is unconstitutional. You need to provide them some assistance. Let's give them some guidelines that say that it's 50-50. Both parents have an equal opportunity to parent that child or those children. And absent, some serious showing that one parent is unfit for some sort of reason, or there's really something serious going on that would necessitate giving more custody or another to the other. Otherwise, all they're doing is just perpetuating the system. I mean, New Mexico is horrible for that. I mean, you're trapped in the system. You spend tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars just fighting to get back to half in a lot of instances, especially with some of our judges here in the Albuquerque district. It's not always gender specific, but there is absolutely a bias that shows up. A lot of the judges that were in the second judicial district here have we'll call it a feminist bent, and where they believe that ultimately a woman should be the one parenting the child. But we don't live in a day and age where that makes any sense at all. I mean, that's an archaic type of sentiment. But I think that the AG's office can really be a platform and a voice to say, look, you can't depend on the judges and the rule of man to fix this problem. We really need a legislative fix. And the only way that they're going to understand there's a legislative fix is if you have an attorney general that's starting to hold judges accountable to the Constitution. And our current attorney general won't do that at all. In fact, most attorneys won't won't even think about challenging a judge or criticizing a judge. It just doesn't happen there. Our lives depend on it, and I've said to hell with it. I'm going for it. So
right, and I think that's because the bar has become somewhat of what we call the good old boys network, where it's, hey, I'll help you, I'll contribute to your campaign, reforms, and I'll make sure that you get reelected. And then when that happens, okay, well, that bars a situation because we're talking about an emolument. And so now we've got somebody given a gift in order to receive a certain ruling. And so you see some of those lawyers who are big time contributors to the campaigns of those judges. They generally win a lot of the cases. Well, why is that? Because there's a bias. And that's what we call an emolument, where we have those situations. And even an emolument with Title IV, because there's an incentive process where these judges are being paid a federal incentive through Title IV in order to have a biased outcome, whatever that biased outcome might be. That way they continue to get those funds from child support. And it happens also, and I don't want to just limit ourselves to just divorce situations, because CPS is another big issue that we have, unfortunately, where we see probably two fit parents. Let's say they got a situation where somebody reports them for some odd unknown reason. Maybe there's a situation there where there's a disagreement. And so they report those families, and guess what? They show up, they do a little bit of an interview, they see a few dishes still in the sink that are unwashed, and boom, here we go. And then it becomes a big hassle and a big issue. My thinking on this, and I'm sure it is for you being a libertarian, is we want government to stay out of our children's lives. Is that correct?
That's right. As long as nobody's truly being hurt. The government's job is not to interfere in anything in our lives, whether it's what you consume, whether it's who you want to love. None of those things are really the government's business. They're not even really my business for another person, right? I mean, that's the whole libertarian philosophy, is that as long as what you're doing doesn't hurt somebody else, doesn't hurt somebody who can't defend themselves, it's none of my business, and it's certainly none of the government.
Exactly. And that's a good process. And I want to get to Jessie, because I know that she has some amazing statistics. She's always come up with some great research and homework that she always does on this. So I'm going to let her hit some good fine points that she has researched this week. It's been amazing listening to her and some of the research she's come up with. Jessie.
So Title II, first, restoration of our constitutional rights as parents, absolutely paramount to probably one of the most important issues in our country right now, whether people want to acknowledge it or not, because it's at the foundation of so many other issues going on in our country. Allowing children to have equal time and equal access to both parents, allowing our constitutional right as parents to be imposed it's above all else. You talk about agendas, these politicians' agendas. It's very much a personal agenda, and it's very much a personal gain for them. And it's almost like a war between, what state can get the most. Title 4D and E funding, I refer to, and this is just something I refer to it as the largest legal U.S. child trafficking system in existence today, that's ran by our very own federal and state government. That's what I call it. I don't even want to call it Title 4D funding anymore. I just want to call it the U.S. child trafficking system, because it's the way that our state and federal government is generating revenue off of our children. And to me, there's no difference between generating money off of our children through the government or through the state, or selling, you know, your children on the black market. It just, you're using a child to generate revenue. It's really a sick system. And, you know, I have this really, really long report, and the more and more I read it and the more I know, the more and more disgusted I get at actually what is taking place in our very own government. You know, federally, for every dollar that they invest in the child support system at the federal level, they make $5.33. The state of New Mexico, for every state dollar that they invest $1, they're making $3.26.
Mm-hmm.
They're making everything from Title IV incentive, the child trafficking incentive, to administrative incentive, to processing of payments incentive. The processing of it, swiping that card. So the state, listen, the state made $24,961 just for swiping those cards last year.
Right. That's a big issue that we've got, Blair, and I wanted to kind of address this and round this back off to you, because when we see some of these things and we're trying to address it, of course the government has got to make some money. I mean, in order to stay open and keep the doors open of Congress, you know, or of the state Congress, you've got to do, you know, you've got to make some revenue in some way, shape, or form to pay for the roads, pay for the highways, keep the education going, you know, keep actual situations of child abuse from happening, actual domestic violence, which I still say, go to a criminal court. Don't go to a civil court. It's a criminal activity. So on those particular issues, you know, is the state making this to be such a profitable situation to where we're no longer paying for the expenses that we need to pay for? There's money in excess that is going somewhere to line someone's pocket. Is that correct?
You know, that's always a concern in New Mexico. And it's always toughest to find where it's actually leaving the government going into somebody's pocket. But we do have a lot of state contracts. So one of the major problems with New Mexico is that we have an oil and gas industry that really does supply most of our state budget. We should be an absolutely thriving state because we have resources beyond what just about, I think we're the number 3 oil producing state in the union right now.
Mm-hmm.
Huge budgets for our state. And yet in spite of that, the number 1 employer in the state of New Mexico is still government. And what it comes down to is we have this entire system where everybody here really ends up either working as a lawyer suing somebody, or they end up working for the government. But there's really not a lot in between. Down in the southeastern part of the state, in the northwestern corner, we have industry because of the oil industry. But the rest of the state is really dependent on those federal dollars, whether they're coming in the form of the national labs or they're coming in the form of the funding like we're talking about here through a racket, which is all this is. I mean, it really is just a racket to suck those dollars in. And then you end up with judges that are going to the legislature and saying, hey, we need more funding and we need more funding, we need more budget, we need to hire more people so I can hire so-and-so's kid brother or so-and-so's nephew. And that's really how the corruption works in New Mexico. It's a patronage system. You know, you're from Illinois. You guys have the same kind of issue there in Illinois.
Right.
I don't think we've ever really progressed in New Mexico past the old patron system that we had. And that's the way that the old Mexican system worked, is that everybody paid homage to whoever the duke or whatever was that was in charge of that area, and they got jobs, and that's how they survived. So that's really how they control everything in New Mexico. So the more of those federal dollars that they pull in, the more people they can turn around and hire and put under their control. So it's not that you don't see anybody that's really getting wealthy off of the government, not wealthy like we're talking about real wealth, but you do certainly see people that are gathering up power. They're able to have influence. They're able to get other things on the side when they're working for the government because of the power they exert.
Right.
And so they're picking that up. But that corruption is absolutely there. And those federal dollars facilitate that. There's no doubt.
The payment also seems to be profitable if you are involved in the foster care system, because in New Mexico, to foster families, so these are families, these aren't blood-related families, these are families who are fostering children. Okay, you ready for this number? Because I'm pretty sick. It's $1,118,786,900 $706,303
Oh, geez.
last year.
That's
That is the TANF-based monetary money that foster care families received last year in the state of New Mexico.
How much is that again? Do you mind?
Yeah, 1,118,706,303 dollars.
wow.
To
That's
put that into perspective, New Mexico's entire budget for the entire state government is roughly $6.5 billion.
So 1/6 about.
you know, 1/6 of the budget's coming from foster care,
But
basically.
the state is also sitting on, I'll just round it out to 3.3. So $3.3 million the state is sitting on in undistributed child support money. They're drawing interest off of that money as well. They won't disclose that they're drawing interest off of it because they don't have to, but they are.
Right. And I think that's how that happens, Blair, is there's a case out there that I refer to all the time. It's called Blessings versus Freestone. And in that case, you had 5 mothers that were on welfare who went and tried to sue the child support enforcement. And what they found out was that Title IV-D funds were going to Title IV-A to pay for the welfare system. Well, if they're already on the welfare system, what ends up happening is Title IV-D agencies do not have to release but the first $50 to that person. So you could have, and well, you could have basically a child support order of close to $1,000 going towards the mother, but it's going towards Title IV. And then they say, oh, no, she's on welfare. We'll give her $50 and we're going to keep $950. Where does that money go? Yep. It goes to a special account that builds the interest up, and it just keeps accumulating interest. So there's an account somewhere that's drawing a lot of interest.
They refer to that as the pass-through. And in New Mexico, I live in the state of Florida, and in Florida, if you receive welfare benefits, you have to pick or choose. Do you want welfare or do you want to receive your child support? That's referred to as the pass-through. New Mexico has having a pass-through or not. New Mexico does have a pass-through. They allow $100 for the first child in addition to your welfare benefits, or $200 for children over over 2 children.
Right.
The interesting thing is that wasn't passed until 2012, and between 2012 and 2016, when the pass-through became law in 2012, TANF payments reduced by $413,760.
Wow. Right. And so my question on this one, to round all of this back to you, Blair, is I would say, who is in charge of the Solicitor General of the state of New Mexico? Because my understanding is the Solicitor General of the state is who controls those funds and those finances. And if not, why are they getting paid an exorbitant amount of money to not do a job that they were hired to do?
So New Mexico doesn't have a per se Solicitor General. There's generally a solicitor in the Attorney General's office. That's somewhat different. What we do have is a state auditor and a state treasurer that both serve a little bit of that function. And it's more the state auditor that is the one that's supposed to be really looking at the proper use of those funds. That's why that's a fairly important position here in New Mexico. We don't have a libertarian, unfortunately, running for that position. But
well, hey, we need somebody who's fiscally responsible.
That's right. But the kicker to that is that the Attorney General's office does have some amount of oversight to do those investigations, to go to the auditor and say, is this being done right? And if it's not, to then prosecute the officials in that agency for the misuse of those funds. So that's
exactly.
That's another major component of the Attorney General's office, is to be enforcing those laws and making sure that they are following those laws and there's not any sort of misuse of government funds. And we do have a specific set of statutes for that.
That's correct. And I believe that when we got into some of that, and if I can remember right here, I want to see if I can bring this quote up here, because I don't want to misquote something here in what was said. But in Marbury versus Madison, it specifically says the U.S. Supreme Court held that laws repugnant to the Constitution are void, and that it is a province of the court to make that determination. So when we get down to these specific things, as the Attorney General of the state, or running for the Attorney General of the state, will you hold state statutes accountable to the federal Constitution?
Absolutely. Absolutely. More so even than that, I will hold court rules to adhere to the United States Constitution and the state constitution, which we don't have right now. We talked a little bit about this before, but our New Mexico Supreme Court just passed rules that are repugnant to the U.S. Constitution. And our Attorney General, rather than telling them, no, you need to follow the Constitution, telling the Supreme Court this, he went to bat for them. And he's their attorney that's advocating that what they're doing is right. So the fact that it tramples citizens' rights doesn't matter to Hector. All he really cares about is keeping his judge friends happy. So he's representing them. And I turned around and said, no, you're not following the Constitution. You're harming people's constitutional rights. And I sued the Supreme Court as a private attorney representing private citizens trying to hold the court accountable. Not a real popular thing to do in the legal profession. In fact, they had to shop for a long time before they finally found an attorney that was willing to sue the Supreme Court, because most of the bar here in New Mexico views that as career suicide. I figured that was the reason I became an attorney in the first place.
Yeah. And I think that attorneys out there, they need to hold themselves to a higher account than what they have been, quite frankly. I mean, you're taking a situation where people are at their lowest a lot of the times, and they're really dependent upon you to represent them in your best interest. Unfortunately, I believe that there's a lot of courts out there who have made specific design rules, what they call rules of civil procedure, and in the American jurisprudence have said, hey, look, even if you're an attorney, you're an officer of the court. No, not necessarily, because you represent your client. It's the same thing as if you knew that your client was guilty of murder, but you had to represent that client, would you go to the court and say, no, my client's guilty of murder? No, you wouldn't. That's your job is to be an attorney for that particular person, whether it's wrong or whether it's right. So I mean, it's a situation to where Blair, I have to ask this because it's so glaring in the face that when we have court-appointed attorneys, this is a big issue, because court-appointed attorneys still feel that there's a justification to represent and be an officer of the court, and unfortunately are not doing their clients justice. Is that another situation you'll address?
So I've lived that situation. So two things on that. One, your point about attorneys and a higher point and a higher calling for attorneys is absolutely true. And I was lucky. I have an attorney that I feel really, truly cares about me, and in spite of how much it's cost me, has really done what she can to fight for me. But I have my law partner here in our law office has the opposite. She's had two attorneys sell her out, very much for the point that they understood that this was going to be a case that would just continue to pay. And the longer they kept her and her ex trapped in the system, the more money they're going to make. And that's all they really care about. When it comes to court-appointed guardians ad litem or attorneys ad litem, so I actually, this is another way you get into really good graces with the court. We had a guardian ad litem appointed in my case, and I went ahead and I could tell. So my former father-in-law is also an attorney, which is probably why my situation is as big a mess as it is, because it's another attorney. He was having conversations, and he actually paid for the guardian ad litem, and she told me, no, he's paying for me, you don't need to. And I was like, no, you're supposed to represent both of us. That's appropriate. Ultimately, I got wind of she was having ex parte communications with the judge, the guardian ad litem was, and she's having all kinds of communications back and forth with my ex and her attorneys, one of whom is her father. So I did discovery, and I asked, and I said, hey, I would like to see what those communications are. There's no attorney-client privilege between the guardian ad litem and the other party in the divorce, right, or the other parent of the child. I should be able to see those. I did that. The guardian ad litem filed for a protective order, and the judge in our case ripped me a new one and said, no, you can't have that. And she's an arm of the court, and therefore she's immune from discovery. There's no privilege that attaches, but that's what she said. So I said, okay, fine. Being the troublemaker I am, I said, okay, well, we have an Inspection of Public Records Act law here in New Mexico. If she's an arm of the court, that means she's an agent of the government, which means she's subject to open records law. So I put in an open records request for all those records, and they refused to give it to me, so I sued them.
Yep. Yeah.
And we're still fighting that. That's still in the Court of Appeals, and it's still the same racket. The court protects themselves, and they protect the judges, and they don't want to give me these records. They're about my child and actually impact my life and my child's life, and they won't let me have those records. So the corruption, it takes a huge number of forms when it comes to this. What it really boils down to is protecting a racket. That's what this is really all about.
Yeah.
It is, absolutely. And isn't the guardian ad litem the representative for the child?
Supposed to be, but the whole problem with that system is those guardians ad litem know that the longer they keep the child trapped as their ward and they keep the parents trapped paying for them, that they keep getting paid. So what's their incentive to actually help the children, other than hopefully they're a good human being? But again, we're talking about lawyers, so you can get that being, so.
Yeah, it looks like your mic is breaking up there. Let's try that again, bud.
How's that, Jay?
Yeah, it's still breaking up. I don't know why. Yep. Yeah, but I would.
One of the interesting things that I also found was the administrative incentive that Title IV allows to states. So for New Mexico, they generate almost $27 million in federal incentive money to even operate the child support program in the states, which in itself, I mean, I really would love to see somebody question the constitutionality of the child support statutes as a whole, both at the federal level and the state level, because if they're generating money off of our children, then it should be unconstitutional. It should be biased. It should be, it should just be a conflict of interest altogether. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think child support is a remnant that should have died a long time ago from like the 1940s and 50s. This idea that in this day and age where almost I think it's like 80%, you can probably give me the stat, 80% of parents are both working parents and they're both doing the best they can for a child. So why on earth are we sitting there and deciding that we're going to give one parent more time and then we're going to make the other parent pay for this? It doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't you just put the child with both parents, let both parents pay for the child and be done with it? So I really, I pay my child support religiously every month, but I think it's, see, exactly.
$558 million.
It's absolutely wasted money. This is also where the libertarian side of me shows up. We spend, I think it's almost $2 billion in tax preparation each year just to pay your taxes. That's just wasted money. Yeah, I have accountant friends and I like them and I hope that they do okay, but I'd rather that they didn't get paid to do that. That's wasted money. And ultimately, Child Support Enforcement Administration is money that could have been spent on children as scholarships or whatever else you want to do to educate children, provide food for hungry children. There's all kinds of better things you could be doing with that money instead of trying to enforce a system that is absolutely unconstitutional as being violative of equal protection.
One of the other areas that are covered under Title IV, Title 4D and E of the Social Security Act is also the Pell Grant. Do you know that the Pell Grant is also covered under that funding source as well? And I haven't even opened that bag of worms to go there because I probably just don't even have the time. And I probably would be living on the White House steps if I really get into this. But, you talk about education, you talk about our education system, you talk about the influx and the tremendous increase in the cost of tuition as Title IV has generated revenue and increased Pell funding and expanded eligibility. It really is, it's strictly designed to just make money. And nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to talk about the real issue that the federal and the state government, Michelle Williams said it well, they're pimping us out.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Blair, I would say that we've got a lot of these different issues, and we've got a lot of these things that we go through. What are some of the great solutions that maybe we could come up with that would, number one, maybe end some of this Title IV nonsense, and some, not only just Title IV, but some of the reforms that are needed in the Social Security Act to get rid of the fraud. Quite frankly, it is fraud. It's Social Security fraud. Because unfortunately our old folks, and I say old folks, but I mean our retirees are out there. A lot of them have to decide whether or not they paid their rent this month or they pay for their medication. And so what do we do to ensure that the Social Security either is going to be there, or if we go to a privatized system?
I think ultimately when it comes to Social Security, you're going to have to look at a privatized system. It's the current system, whether you're looking at the Title IV funding, whatever it is, none of what's going on right now as far as federal spending is sustainable. It's just not. And okay, I can sound like a libertarian here. There's no way that we should have a federal government that is not living underneath a balanced budget, period. Right. I would say when you look at Social Security and everything else, you're going to have to figure out a way to balance the budget, and then figure out a way to get people into retirement. Certainly the older generation, it's too late to do that. But when it comes to, the Xers like me and the millennials below us, that they're thinking about taking care of this themselves, and they're not dependent on the government to do this, because it's just not going to be there. It's not sustainable for the government to be there. I have no expectation of ever receiving Social Security. It's never going to happen. So I really think that that's what we're going to have to look at when it comes to those. And then getting rid of, like you said, the fraud and waste, which means removing those programs that we do with the states as a federal government to incentivize them to pull in more and more money, right? I mean, that's right. Title IV is a great example of that, what's going on with the court system, Child Protective Services, or CYFD in New Mexico. Building a system that keeps people trapped in it, and the more people that they get into the system, and then, like you said, more children they steal and use that to get more federal dollars, that program just perpetuates. So you have to remove that system, and you have to get to something that realizes that the way to deal with families and with children is to give parents equal opportunity to parent those kids, and to actually have those children have both parents in their lives in an equal fashion. I think that also goes to helping deal with our gun violence problems and our drug problems, and deals with crime in general. Because if you have both parents actually in your life, the chances of you devolving into a life of crime are much less.
Absolutely.
Defeating the very thing that would solve these other problems by breaking up families and by penalizing one parent or the other and picking winners or losers. The only people that make out good, and this is true in everything I do, the only people that make out good on this are the lawyers and the judges.
That's true. When I don't know about New Mexico, but in Florida, we have our Department of Corrections, they call it now. It's no longer prison. Our Department of Corrections is a privatized system. So the majority of our prisons here in Florida they're privately run. They are operating for the purpose of generating revenue. 85% of our prison population is comprised of fatherless children. This isn't the deadbeat dad that didn't want to be a father. The majority of fathers want to be fathers. We just have the fatherless generation that's family court imposed fatherlessness. We talk about mental health, suicide, teen pregnancy. We talk about domestic violence. These are all programs that generate revenue. All of them, every single one of them. And if we can not immediately terminate them, because that would be pure chaos for the majority of recipients, but in a short term, independent, self-sufficient plan, help the majority are women get back to work and gaining self-sufficiency, giving children equal access to both parents, then I believe we can restore our country to what it once was.
Right. Yeah, I would say that that's definitely a great plan going forward. And I know that obviously child support may in its form may necessarily never go away to what we want it to go away to nothing. honestly, I feel as if you are having a shared parenting atmosphere, which you should take care of the children while you have them. I think that that's very important. But the aspect is also, do we completely abolish child support? I'm just going to put it out there. Do we completely abolish child support?
So I would frame it this way. I think we abolish child support because we go to 50-50 parenting. And if there is a real reason why you can't be a 50% parent and pay for your 50% of the time, then yes, in that instance, you should be paying child support. But only in that instance where you are not able to care for the child 50% of the time. Not that you're not the preferred parent, but that you're not able, for some sort of debilitation or some sort of criminal problem you have, whatever that might be, some sort of substance abuse problem, you're not allowed to, or you shouldn't be allowed to at that point, expose the child to that kind of a risk. But by the same token, if those things aren't present, it should be 50-50. And that's look, we live with same-sex couples. How would you divide up custody between two men or two women? Who picks the winner and the loser in that instance? Honestly, I think that there's a great example for the family court system in looking at how we're going to handle those types of families. And I think that's important because we wouldn't pick a loser between two men or two women based upon what? Because you can't pick on gender, so what are we going to do? It really should be that both of those parents, unless there's a real reason not to, get to have an equal opportunity to parent the child.
Right. And I'm glad you kind of brought that up because I know that there were some questions as to it, and we had saw a case in which it was two married females, or a married female couple, so to speak. And what ended up happening was whoever carried the baby to term through surrogacy was awarded the majority of the custody, unfortunately. So it was basically some of the same issues that we're going across. But, nothing makes that other mother more unfit than the other to carry or, to raise that child. So it's just a real same situation scenario that keeps going on. But I wanted to get into another topic that we haven't reached into, and Jesse's going to love this one. Our veterans out there. We've got veterans that are going through specific issues in which the federal law states under 38 USC 511 that the Secretary of the Department of Veteran Affairs shall make all decisions in matters of veterans benefits. No other court can review. However, we have states with their statutes who are still allowing child support orders on a veteran's disability benefits. Even though they're federally protected, these states are still violating by coming up with a statute and then going back to 42 USC 666, which, hey, this is a sign of the beast. That should tell you something.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, but we're going into those matters. And then we have 42 USC 659, which is the child support law. But under H1BIII, it states that the exception is any periodic benefits under Title 38, which Title 38 benefit is veterans benefits.
Here's where I find that they're manipulating the law, because we know that, and no offense, but we know that a lot of times attorneys like to use vague, creative language, right? Like approximately, right? Yes. That's no offense. I love you. I think you're great. I do.
No, James is an attorney's favorite answer. I got you.
Okay. So the laws, the way they write them is VA compensation, right? Because retirement compensation is game on.
Right. Well, according to the law, right. But the Howell versus Howell case even overruled that because it was a veteran.
Disability and equitable distribution. But what specifically the states are circumventing the process by manipulating the language. So what it is VA disability compensation is not income. It's compensation to restore the veteran to whole, right? But for Florida, 61.0468 states VA disability compensation may be used for the establishment of support only. Then when the veteran doesn't pay their child support, what they do is they drag them in the court and they say, well, what's your monthly check amount? And they say, okay, well, we're going to do, they don't say this, but what they do is they do an unlawful, indirect, third party apportionment of that money by placing a purge amount on that veteran.
Right, right. And so we've experienced this, and I wanted to get back to the question because we've experienced this, that we have veterans in our country who have fought for our country and their rights, who are going to family courts and being arrested for being behind on child support.
Yes.
Even though they're supposed to be federally protected. Is there something that obviously your state you're going to be looking into on that?
Yeah, I'll have to look into that. I haven't heard of an instance of that.
Oh, it's happening. I promise you.
Yeah.
I don't doubt that. Look, if there's a way to steal it out of your pocket in New Mexico, we figured it out. I haven't heard about that. I'll have to look into that for sure. That is really disturbing, and I would hope that as Attorney General that I have some ability to put a stop to that.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know for sure, but that does sound unconstitutional.
So in Florida, I actually served our Attorney General who, if you've watched any of our shows or you've heard any discussions, you'll know that I love our governor and our general so much. I do. But I have served her with a question. Pam Bondi is her name, by the way. And I have served her with a question of constitutionality of 61.046, now 8. And she has blatantly disregarded my question of constitutionality. She lacks any kind of response. And that's where we're at today.
Right. And these things happen, Blair, and what my my goal is on this is particular myself. I'm a veteran. I've gone through the family court systems. I've been threatened with jail. I've been threatened with all of these different things. And for 2 years, I went without seeing my kids and lived homeless on a park bench because I was a disabled veteran. And finally, I am back on my feet. I've been back on my feet for a while, but I don't want to see any veteran who has served our country ever have to go through what I had to go through, and trying to, just luckily by happenstance, I had a good grandfather who was a good hunter and taught me how to hunt mushrooms and everything else to survive. So I was lucky. Other veterans, not so lucky. We've had veterans who have died on the street, homeless because of child support situations. We've got to figure out how we can protect them.
Well, absolutely. Not just on the child support front, but taking care of them with mental health and everything else. Right. And the VA system in general is just a wreck.
Yes.
Across the country. That's just absolutely something as a country we're going to have to deal with, because we absolutely owe it to those to you. So thank you for your service. It's a shame.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And like I said, I mean, it's the same with this movement when it comes down to myself being a veteran. I mean, I don't take any wills on anything, because obviously we're just one of thousands that do these things. And so being a veteran, when somebody says thank you for your service, a lot of veterans are like, what do I say? I mean, it's really one of those things where we just felt it was our duty to do. We took an oath to support and defend the Constitution against enemies, foreign and domestic. We were never relieved of that. And so that's why I've gone into advocacy for this movement, is because we really have never been relieved of that duty by the president. So we're continuing on that same process, and we've got enemies against the Constitution, unfortunately. So,
absolutely. We've got one of those domestic threats, and it's good to see you.
Right.
And definitely we want to thank you so much for coming on and getting down to the bottom of some of these really important questions, because I mean, there's a lot of attorney generals out there for states who I've even contacted personally who will not come on. They feel under the microscope, and they're going to be threatened by asking certain questions. So we greatly appreciate you coming on, spending a little of your time with us.
It's part of me doing my duty. I took an oath to be an attorney. It was to uphold the Constitution. We need an attorney general that will actually do that in that position and uphold the law. So I'm more than happy. And anytime you guys would like to have me back, I'd love to come back. So
Sure, we would absolutely love it.
Mr. Dunn, Bud Vino here. I sat back as a fan and just listened. I enjoyed it. Thank you. And we'll definitely have you back on again. Everybody out there in New Mexico, go out and vote for Attorney General.
Yes.
Blair Dunn, definitely a guy with guts, a guy with vision, and he seems like a guy with a genuinely good heart. So again, Mr. Dunn, thank you wholeheartedly for joining us.
awesome.
Absolutely. And Mr. Dunn, where can people find you at if they're interested, if they live in New Mexico, they want to get in, not only just cast their vote, but they want to get involved and help you out, obviously.
Big on Facebook. I'm pretty easy to find on Facebook, but then ABD4NM is my website. It's going through a rehash right now, so it won't be up and probably till Friday again. But and then, I'm about 7 feet tall, so if you see me walking around downtown, don't hesitate. Come talk to me. I may look like I'm big and burly, but I'm really pretty easy to get along with. So.
Well, Mr. Dunn, I got to say before you go to, I love the attire. You remind me of some of the stuff I've seen you wearing, one of those like 40s or 20s at points throwbacks. It's comforting. I think I was born in a different era, so I think I'm drawn to that. So I like it. Keep it up.
As much as anything, I'll admit that the bow tie is a thing of necessity.
Does it spin? Does it spin or no?
So to get I'm 6'10", so to get a tie that really works.
Yeah.
You're a big boy. I didn't realize you were that. I knew you were tall, but that's wow. The jolly libertarian giant.
Well, and I walk around in cowboy boots with my suit all the time too. So
I love it. I love it.
Nobody's gonna miss him. Nobody's gonna miss him.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, definitely. And it looks like A.BlairDunn definitely is 7 feet tall and now bulletproof.
Yes. Yes. We'll have you back on, sir.
Thank you for all that you do, because it's very, very rare to have somebody come out and speak against the and be knowledgeable about the government corruption and be willing to take the stance of fighting against that. 2.4 million, $1 billion, that's a lot to lose. So whatever we can do to help you in this.
It's about what's right for our kids, right, guys? I mean, that's what it comes
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that. Awesome. Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. We greatly appreciate you.
Right on. Thanks, guys.
All righty. That was Mr. Blair Dunn. Amazing first hour. It went by so quickly again, as usual. Bud Vino, killing it.
Right by it. Jay Moss, yeah. Well, when we saw it, Blair, he was coming on too. The initials A. So I was like, hey, yo. I said you guys before, hey, yo. So, but we didn't have to use the A. So that was good. Yeah, awesome first half, guys. You guys really carried that one, and it was great to see informative. And as you said, Jeff, absolutely to see someone like him come out and be very vocal and definitive in terms of his stance and how wrong it is and his plans to change things, as opposed to just saying things to placate everybody involved. He's actually taking a strong stance and fighting against the corruption.
The status quo. A lot of these legislators, they're okay with the status quo, or they want to sit back and act like they have no clue about Title IV funding. Come on. Really?
Right.
Come on.
Right. That's why you have it. Yeah.
It's just out there. I mean, we know that Title IV is out there. We know that all of the other titles that are going along with the Social Security, we know that they're fraud. We need to start calling them Social Security fraud.
Listen,
it is what it is.
If I can find it, anybody can find it.
Yeah. And if they're in politics and they know, and the money's coming in from somewhere, they know where it's coming in from. They don't lie about it. They're not just going to receive a paycheck and go,
Yeah, and as we see, guys, this is how it's done. As Mr. Dunn came on, and we see, I'm firmly convinced, and you see it all the way around, the people that are getting results. It's due to exposure, really, really hard exposure, and really, like I said, exposing the people that are doing this. Again, like Jesse said, and I believe it was Mr. Dunn said too, is what's the incentive? And we've said it before too to these people. What Mr. Dunn said too is a lot of times you count on these people being human. Now he was referring to their hearts and their their ethics and their morals and things. But if we can't count on that, well, what we do know is they're human and they're greedy and they're weak emotionally. So what you have to do is go right at them and expose them with the truth. And I believe that's what's going to get it fixed, because you obviously can't count, unfortunately, on people's good hearts all the time we see that, because if we could, we wouldn't be even having this show right now, guys.
Oh, absolutely. That's 100% correct. And I think that I want to address the fact that I know that there was a big rally today in Contra Costa, California. Big rally. I saw some things on it. We are getting media attention, huge media attention that's coming out there. Not just one reporter. I mean, we're talking about one reporter that's followed the movement for 2 years.
Yeah.
Things, and now it's starting to snowball. And Contra Costa, you guys out there are doing a fantastic job. Keep it up.
Yeah, Jay, I'm glad you mentioned that, because rarely, like you do, I get on. It was funny. Jay and I get on these things where we're on the same page and we're not even talking to each other. All of a sudden, we'll just go into the same live feed. And we rarely, we don't have time to do that a lot. But I believe it was because you mentioned me in a comment and some other people. And I went in, and from what I saw, like I said, Jay, I'm glad you mentioned that, because there was some real positive energy, and you could feel it. People were chanting, and I believe there was an attorney that was speaking. I could be wrong. It was a female, and you could feel the passion, and people were getting empowered. And as you said, Jay, it's good to see that things are snowballing everywhere. People are getting empowered and educated.
That's exactly right. And I think that, education is the big key, and empowerment, and then taking the ball and running with it.
They go hand in hand, right, Jay?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Right.
And we're going to get into our middle of our show real quick here, because there are some other amazing people out there who are taking the ball and running with it, and we're going to get into that here a little bit.
Jay, if I could preface, I don't believe we said it. Neely is not with us tonight. For people that are curious, she just didn't vanish. We should have said that in the opening. She's taking care of some personal business. She may be on at some point, but if we'll keep you guessing, because we don't know either, so we won't fool you. But we did discuss it last night. She's doing fine. And Pete, the real deal, Jay, at some point, we'll see if he's still on that milk container when we come back from break, I guess. So Jay will be rolling with the middle, and so will I. And that's how it's going to go. Old school, Jay.
Yeah, we can do old school style. So I'm going to go ahead and put everybody mute for just a second. All right, and we're ready to roll with the mid of our show.
Have you ever felt? Are you listening? Damn. Yeah.
And we are back on the Far From Roll Radio show. Just wanted to go ahead and get us in real quickly here to our middle segment of our show, where we normally do the birthdays and anniversaries. And going into that here, I want to go ahead and get my list up. We've got on the calendar of events for 5/8/18, which is today, May the 12th, we've got Saturday Spring Family Fun Fest. That's at 10 a.m. at the Crown Plaza in Springfield, Illinois. See Dad's Can 2 or Jesse West for more details. I'm going to go ahead and roll this little clip here that we created with Jesse West.
Dad's Can 2 would like to invite everyone to the Family Fun Fest Spring Arts and Crafts Show, May 12th at the Crown Plaza. Bring the kids for outdoor fun, including bounce houses, RC racing, food trucks, and much, much more. All-day wristbands are only $10, and you can visit inside and find over 50 other vendors. Admission inside is just $4, free for kids with the wristbands. A big special thanks for this event to Dad's Can 2, the Crown Plaza, and C-Dub's Funhouse. Be there Saturday, May 12th from 10 to 4. This is part of
So awesome stuff. Be ready for that. Awesome event there. And that is May the 12th. Again, Saturday, May the 12th at it is the Spring Family Fun Fest at 10 a.m. at the Crown Plaza in Springfield. If you're in the Springfield area, please get there. Check out Dad's Can 2, amazing site as well. Jesse West is an amazing guy. Jesse West Sr., great guy, doing some great stuff out there. If you haven't checked it out, he's done like the St. Patrick's Day floats and some other floats out there, just doing some amazing local stuff out there.
Absolutely, Jay.
Yeah, May the 13th, which is a Sunday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. I believe that's Eastern time. Mother's Day demonstration, which will be at the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. Please see Mark Young for more details. Our big one out there, May the 20th, which will be a Sunday, Capitals for Kids at 11. I got 11 a.m. I'm not sure why that is. I believe it's 7 p.m. Out there at the Holiday Inn in Alexandria, Old Town, Alexandria, Virginia. Please see Americans for Equality or Equal Share Parenting for more details. Tickets now have been reduced to $10, and the reserve seating is still $50, but the $10 will get you in the door. And I know if a lot of you are on a super tight budget like myself, $10, that's not so bad. Obviously, you know, getting there, you're going to need those things as well. So $10 is not too bad. Obviously, if you have a little bit more money, $50, understand they've got to reserve the ballroom. They've got to pay for all of those expenses, and they're, you know, paying for all of the logistics of that whole event. So understand that that's what that's for. It's not they're making any type of a huge profit or something off of this. It's not what that is. This is all great stuff. And I want to go ahead before we get any farther in the list of activities here. We're going to go ahead and I'm going to list out for you, if I can get my doggone thing to come up here, some of the great people who will be there speaking. Of course, we've got Mark Ludwig for Americans for Equal Share Parenting. We've got Melissa Isaac from the Isaac Family Law Firm. We've got Representative Tom Pitschke from South Dakota. We've got Philly Slim, musician entertainer. We've got Dr. Tori J. Evans for the Fatherless Generation Foundation, Jeremy Roberts from the state of Missouri, Rafael Franco from the state of New Jersey and FanPack. We've got Jesse West Sr., of course, from Dad's Can Too, Chad Laudermilk for Illinois Fathers for Equality. We've got Thomas Fiddler from the Fathers' Rights Movement. Big one. We've got Yahya McClain, documentarian and former heavyweight champion of the world. And we've got Ed Bryans. We've got Dr. Jim Beadle. We've got Cash Jackson, Nicholas Dreesen from Families United Action Network. We've got Jeff Millar. And of course, Representative just added big time thing. We've got Representative from Illinois, LaShawn K. Ford will be there speaking. That's a huge deal.
I've got chills, Jay, all the way around. Woo, it's like a rock concert. I'm going to meet all my heroes.
Exactly, and I believe Mark called this. What did he call it? He called it the. I can't even remember what the name of it is.
Jay, I don't.
The Woodstock, is that what he called it? He called it the Woodstock, right?
I didn't hear that, but I will say this, Jay. This is shaping up to be, and Mark is, I'm quite sure, but this is monumental, folks.
Yes.
This is absolutely shaping up to be one of the most instrumental rallies, aka organization. You know, it's just amazing, Jay. You can feel it, you can see it, and everybody. It's kind of like a dream come true in the sense of everybody's coming together. What we always talked about, and it's been done when people have come together and worked hard and put their differences aside and realize that sometimes our differences are what bring us together, and they become our strengths when we can work together and actually combine our talents. And we've seen that. Cass Jackson, Mr. Tom Fiddler from the Fathers' Rights Movement, Chad Laudermilk, Mr. Ford, who we've had on the show. We've had every one of those folks on the show. I don't believe we've had Tom Fiddler on yet. I don't believe. I could be wrong, but I don't believe we have. But the future, you just never know, Jay.
Yeah, and I mean, he's obviously got an open invite at any time. And I know, Eric, you're waiting on hold, so I'll get to you in just a second here. But definitely, we'll roll into the rest of the announcements real quick. But definitely, if you are available and you can make it to Washington, D.C., definitely do. And again, we don't want to miss the fact that 4 of us at least will be there in Washington, D.C. So definitely come meet us. We'll definitely give you a big hug. And thank you so much for definitely coming and being part of this movement. Because
Yes.
we love you. We appreciate you.
Yes, Jay. And Pete and I are finally solidifying things after the show. And I told him, because we're going to room together, as you know, Jay, I said, Pete, I'm a snuggler because I don't like my feet being cold at night. So that got a good laugh out of him and you and everybody else. And so, yeah, that was good. That was good. It's going to be a fun time. Yeah. I'm having fun already. I'm not even there yet.
Yeah, and some exciting things.
The final collaboration of what we're doing in this movement. We have a lot of heads of a lot of groups that are coming together. We have a lot of legislators. We have a good attorney body that's coming. I really think collectively, this movement is coming to the stance, or to the point where we are forming the next civil rights movement.
Right, and I absolutely do that. And I'm going to go ahead and get right into the rest of them real quick here so we can get Eric on real quick. Okay, so I got some things going on my screen there. I'm going to move that real quick. All right, so let's see. We've got the capitals for kids, obviously. May the 30th, which is a Wednesday, 10 a.m., Stand Against Parental Alienation Rally with Bruce Nathan. That's at the Orange County Courthouse in Florida. See Bruce Nathan for more details. May 30th, that is the shared parenting event at Westland City Hall, 36300 Warren Road in Westland, Michigan. Please see Americans for Parenting for more details. June the 1st is 12 p.m. will be Op Exposed CPS at Hancock City, DHS Highway 90, Bay St. Louis, Mississippi. That is Amber Thompson, I believe. See her for more details. June the 6th, which is a Wednesday, it's the Parental Alienation Petition Delivery to the APA, public address at 7 a.m., Washington District of Columbia. That is shared to Parents United Worldwide from Lori Nicholson. So definitely get with Lori Nicholson on that if you want to be part of that. June the 8th, which is a Friday, it's the Nashville March on Tennessee Capitol and Candlelight Vigil, which will be starting at 2 p.m. in Nashville. Please see Ed Elliott for more details. And let's get into the birthdays.
Jay, let me go ahead and do the birthdays. I'm going to keep the video off because I've got a setup here where I have to. But you're going to hear me. Today, we have Billy Ellison, Linda Shaw, Jen Gonzalez, Barry Mansfield. Wednesday, Donna Ferris, Robin Perry, Rebecca Schooner, Cyril Rabate, Rachel Dellerman, Valerie Daly, William Ellis, Bob Saunders. Thursday birthdays, Annette Chapman, Robin Schultz, Stacy Friedman, Jessica Pelzek, J.R. Allen, Janice Randier, Mary Smith. Friday, Lydia Hubble, Melinda Bocook, Jack Glass, Katrina Pruitt, Andrea Ball. Saturday birthdays, we have Anne Marie, Philippa Watson, Chastity Allen, Ashley Harris, Teresa Pinder, Yolanda Rodriguez, Tina Conley, Matthew Hocock, Fred Nurk. Sunday, Tina Grosh, Linda Weeks, Wayne Cook, Crystal Darraden, Jeff Alvarez, and Crystal Bradshaw. And on Monday, we have Carly Slim and Walter Kernesh. So happy birthday to everybody from the Far From Normal Radio Show. As always, the Far From Normal Radio Show is copywritten, and copying or transcription of all broadcasts of the show are strictly prohibited without the express written consent of the Far From Normal Radio Show staff and our board of directors.
Awesome
So
stuff.
there we go, Jay.
Awesome. So amazing stuff going on. And one of those, definitely, I want to go ahead and get to right now without further ado. We've got Mr. Eric Sinderman. Eric, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah,
there he is.
How are you guys doing?
We are doing Super fantastic, brother. We had a great interview in our first half, and just an amazing guy, A.BlairDunn out there. He's doing some amazing stuff, and you looks like you're taking over, so to speak, the Million Parent March. That's going to be out there in Washington. And we want to give the opportunity definitely for you to give a good plug to that, because it is changing. It has changed the guard. There are some processes that have taken place to make sure and ensure that it's all about equality, that it's all moving forward in a different arena and aspect. And I want you to be able to get into that a little bit.
Yeah, and Jay, real quick before we I want to preface and say anything positive. And we know Eric. Eric's been a friend of the show for a long time. How you doing, brother? And anyone doing anything, how you doing, buddy? Thanks for taking the time. Anyone doing anything like this, as Jay and I talked about privately, we're all for. Anyone that's doing something productive, we're going to try and back anybody out there, because as we discussed too, Jay, even if it helps a million people or one person can affect a million. So we are all for it. Thanks again for joining us, Eric. Tell us what you got going on.
Well, first thing, I want to make sure I qualify here. I'm not taking over anything. I just have been a more active voice, as have probably another half a dozen other individuals. And
right,
since day one, this has always been. While granted, Cash was able to spearhead a momentum from going Washington State over, to DC in the first run. It's always been about everybody coming together and being an equal part of this. So I want to make sure it's, I'm not running it. There's other people that are leading different aspects of it, and I'm just one piece of a 1,000-piece puzzle here. So
well, thank you. Very humble. Thank you, Eric. Yeah, absolutely. See, these are the things, as you said, Eric. Yours, I guess you could call it an offshoot, right? And we see a lot of different people doing that, where I'm all for it. People just have different things they're setting up, and you're one of them. I know you've been involved for a long time. You're not new to this.
Well, sadly, I've been involved in it for 12 years, not by my choice.
Right. Bittersweet, right, brother? Yeah.
Right. And a lot of the times we say that, Eric, it's not that we chose this movement. It chose us.
Amen. I hear you, brother. I hear you.
And so the issue becomes, are we going to
I'm going to lose you. Uh-oh. Hey.
Yeah, I got you.
All right.
I think I'm going to lose you. I don't know why it's not charging, but anyways, go ahead. If I lose you, it's my phone. I apologize.
Okay.
Well, that's all right. Jay will take it out on you after the show. He does me every time, so don't worry. It shouldn't be too bad. Eric's somebody I believe he had called in a long time ago too, when we were on Blog Talk, Jay, when we were over a year ago. And again, we've seen a lot of these different offshoots, and I was trying to think of the name earlier. There's somebody else that has. There's at least two other people that have rallies going that are kind of came from this Million Parent March idea that's been around for a little while now, Jay.
Right. Yeah. And I know, Eric, if we still have you, I know that yours is going on July. I believe you said in between July the 4th area. Is that correct? I don't know if we've lost him or not.
I don't know if we had lost him. I wasn't sure if you knew. One of the questions I was going to ask Eric. Eric, you with us? I think he's gone. Well, one of the things well, hopefully he can get his phone charged up. He's probably in panic mode, Jay. You know that when you have that happen, and, I cannot believe I had that happen. I was wondering if you know, Jay. I think he's at the beginning stages of the planning process. I believe his tentative date, and there's been some, people have different opinions on it, but I believe it's around the 4th of July, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, and I believe it was the 4th of July in that particular area, and I think from my understanding, and I'll go ahead and remove him from right here until he can call back in. Definitely he'll call back in, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I believe the issue was that we understood that this is not just a issue within the United States. This has become a global issue to where we need to branch out and to get access and get support from other countries. And I believe the goal behind July the 4th was to try and branch out, reach out, build relationships with people who are coming in on July the 4th with other people in other organizations, and to try and spearhead this by becoming a global issue and making sure that we can bring in people the following year globally. And I think that was the aspect that Eric and some of the others had tried to put this around the July 4th holiday there in DC, is to attract that type of a crowd for this year and then have it all come to fruition the following year. And I think that's what it's about. It's about building relationships.
Right.
Process.
Right. And if I'm not mistaken, Jay, like I said, I think it was at the very beginning of stages. I don't even think they had an exact venue because, as you know, as we discussed too, the 4th of July, you won't be able to touch anywhere in major cities in terms of centralized locations. So there are a lot of areas that it could be done at and done effectively.
Yes. Yes, and definitely, and we'll get more information from him. And if he can't get back on, definitely we'll get more information out on that. Obviously, it's going to be coming up decently soon, and so we want to get as much information out. As soon as we get that information, we will post it on the Far From Normal Radio Show's Facebook site. If you have not checked out our Facebook site, please do give us a good like out there because we've got all of our shows out there. Also, you can check us out on YouTube. You can check us out on Twitter. We've got so many things. And if you are out there and you would like to have a birthday announced live on the air, or if you would like to be a guest on the Far From Normal Radio Show, we are booked for the end of this month into next month, but we will definitely take and answer your email and get back to you as soon as we possibly can and try and set something up for you in the future.
Yeah, Jay, we've received a tremendous amount of support. So I want to thank everybody out there. I'll quickly say that. It's been awesome, and the response of the shows and the guests we've had. That's obviously, we may be intriguing, funny, or whatever else it is. It's the guests. It's the people that interact is what makes it. We're just kind of the kind of outlet to be able to kind of put all that together. But we've had some tremendous people on. Lori Nicholson, we had on with Wendy. Excuse me. We've had on who you mentioned, the Fatherless Generation, Tori, who will be in Washington, D.C. on the 20th. And I can't, hey, Tori out there, I know she watches these. You're getting a hug. You're getting a hug. You know, whether you like it or not, I can't wait. I'm going to give it a lot of hugs. Free hugs. I'm going to have a sign that says that. It's going to be great.
We've had Melissa Isaac on. Melissa is just wonderful. Melissa and Jesse, I believe you guys are shacking up there together in one of the hotel rooms.
Oh boy, yeah, that could be trouble.
That could be trouble.
Yeah. It is great at exposing. It has no chill and no fear, and I think that's why we love her so much. And I'm quite sure that might be why Jesse's drawn to her so much. They get along so well. So absolutely.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in meeting some of the people that I haven't met in person for sure too. Rafael Franco from FanPack. I've heard wonderful things about FanPack. I don't know too much about them, but I've heard wonderful things about FanPack and some of the stuff they put together. And Rafael for sure. Rafael Franco is just a lovable, nice guy from what I've seen in his comments and his how he portrays himself. And I'm looking forward definitely to meeting Raphael, definitely Yaya McClain, Nick Friesen, some of these great people.
Aaron Wemple, I believe, will be there. Aaron Wemple, I believe, will be down there. If I'm not mistaken, I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but he is a wonderful guy. Aaron, if you know Aaron, and we don't normally release some of the names that interact and work with us behind the scenes, but Aaron always has, and he's always been super supportive of us. In fact, one of our first videos that we did and we put out of the Far From Normal Radio Show for advertising, Aaron put together. Just an amazing guy. He just got done doing a book signing in Decatur, Illinois. I believe that it was called Shushed is the book that he has out there. So it may be out there on Amazon. Please check it out. Great stuff.
Absolutely, Jay. And I always say too, I don't trust words, and I don't even generally trust actions, as I say, but I do trust patterns and consistency. And Mr. Wemple is someone I've known for a couple of years now, and he is the picture of consistency. He's always been that same benevolent, energetic, supportive man. Again, another person I'm looking forward to hugging, Jay.
Exactly.
One of the great things about this movement is, or one of the great things about the show too, because you always think that you know all the players in the game and you know who's out there, is you really don't.
Right.
I mean, gosh, I just met a great guy, a great attorney here in Florida, and I'm so excited about working with him and getting to know him. And I mean, just attorneys who aren't scared to stand up to the corruption and things of that nature, and who know about things. That
Right.
that is really what continues to empower me in this movement, because we may think that we've met everybody. We haven't, and that's
Right.
why we need doing these shows and talking to people and doing these rallies. It's really, really important.
Absolutely, Jeff. It's funny. It reminds me of a meme that I believe it came up in a memory or something. It shows the Earth and all these planets, pretty much the whole universe. It says, "You are here," like a little speck. Basically, as you said, Jeff, we meet people every day. There are so many people that are affected by this family court corruption, the parental equality movement. That, again, like you said, Jeff, we'll continue to keep meeting people, unfortunately, and that's what it's about, as you said, Jess, and we've just networking. And so that's exactly what it's all about: networking, getting people together, getting the exposure, and marching forward together, arm in arm.
Right, definitely. And I just got a message from Tommy Queen. Tommy, I will get back to you, but I can't take your phone call right now because unfortunately I'm live on the air. So I will return your phone call, I promise. I'll get back to you right after the show tonight. But definitely, we've got some good people out there, a lot of people that we have not even met who are doing things behind the scenes that we're not aware of yet. I try and reach out as much as I possibly can to learn who those people are, but there are people obviously we're going to miss. Even in this situation, we've got people obviously in Contra Costa out there who I haven't made tons of great friendships with yet, but you bet your butt I'm going to, because those are active people doing some great things. So I know one of them being Joe Sweeney did a great job. I know that there was another young lady who represents certain things, was on a television show. I did not enjoy what she had to say. I don't think that she was educated enough in which to speak, because she still spoke of parental alienation as a junk science, and I thought it was unfortunate. I'm going to say it in the best, kindest way that I possibly can. There are people out there who just are uneducated yet. I know Joe, I believe he said today that he's been in the movement for 2 years. And you get a little bit in 2 years, but the thing is, sometimes you need to build that education. Not to say that he hasn't, but you need to kind of build that education and that process over a little bit of time before going out there so public.
It's a blessing and a curse. Sorry, Jess, real quick. It's a blessing and a curse, I think, with this movement, Jess. Maybe you can, speak on this too. Is people that get in this movement, unfortunately, and fortunately, in the sense to where you get educated real quick because you're thrown right into it. And if you don't get educated, you get plowed right over. So it's kind of like baptism by fire, Jess.
Right.
And I think the other aspect of that is the emotional side, because you get involved with this movement most predominantly out of anger, because either you're directly or indirectly affected by the parental alienation and the courts undervalue of you as an equal parent. You need time to process that emotion. So, and I think that is extremely important, because you can jump into this movement with more emotion than education, being seeming erratic and giving this movement a bad rap. And I've seen it in more times than one. And, it can not work out well.
Right. That's an awesome point, because when I was discussing that about being, the baptism by fire and getting right into it, I think that's a lot of what when I was discussing it, I was actually feeling it. So I think that's a great point, because that's what it is at first when people that get blindsided by this. It's a whole range and fluctuation of emotions. And as Jeff said, I implore people that are kind of new in this to just kind of step back and watch for a little bit. And if you're emotional, which of course naturally you are, a lot of the times, to step back, breathe, and again, as Jeff said, do yourself a favor, be your own best friend, and breathe and just relax and watch a little bit.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I would put it that way because sometimes when you have people who come into the movement that want to speak right away, it's good, but let's grow an education too, because sometimes we can kind of speak out of turn, maybe say something that may not be completely correct, and then it can sometimes be counterproductive. So when you have some things that are out there and you start speaking about Title IV and you come out with some certain situations, you're being interviewed for a particular situation, it could kind of make you look like you're not knowing what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
So be very aware.
Jesse, no, Jesse, I'm going to let you say this. Ask and ye shall receive. Jesse Weiner just put some information in. This is exciting, Jess. Go ahead. Jesse Weiner, are you there? Oh, okay. Okay, good. Well, we'll wait a little bit. There's some big stuff coming up, and we'll get into that first because there's other messages coming in that kind of cover injustice too. So we'll wait on that. As we were discussing, Jay, this baptism by fire in this movement, as Jay said, and we discussed, just, don't be distraught. Emotions, when you're doing anything, Jay, from emotions, it's never good. It's never good. Contain yourself, breathe, and get in touch. Again, it's about networking, getting in touch with people, positive, productive people, and educating yourself and moving forward in a positive way to help yourself in the end and your children ultimately.
That's exactly right. And on the great thing about this is that on May 20th out there in DC, Americans for Equal Shared Parenting is putting on this event. All of those people that I listed as speakers are very empowering. They're doing the right things. They're telling you and being motivated people. They can be mentors of yours that can help you gain that knowledge that you need to be to speak eloquently, to speak fluently, to know who your audience is. That's the biggest point that we try and make, even behind the scenes, is we try and let it be known that our audience is males and females going through this. It is children that are ultimately affected. We have aunts, uncles, moms, dads, grandparents that are out there. These are our audience, and know who your audience is so you don't alienate who your audience is. That's the biggest point we can make. In the movement, there's so many people wrapped up in this. There's so many emotions wrapped into this. We want to make sure that we're not offending, but that we're making great points of character out there and we're building relationships with other people.
Absolutely, Jay, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's the biggest point that we're trying to make here is how do we build relationships with those legislators who maybe could possibly have an alternative motive.
Well, I think what we've done in this movement, Jay, is it's as Mark Ludwig is doing, you kind of leave, there's certain things you recognize what you're good at. I always say go with your strengths. And we all have strengths in this. And what's kind of happened is we've had people that represent us with class and education and couth and tax go and approach these legislators in a way that hadn't been done before. And so, again, Mr. Ludwig, people like that, Chad Loudermilk out there, people of that nature, Mr. Ford, who we've discussed, who are able to reach these people, get their feet in the door, which they've done, literally, proverbially, in every way possible. And again, they go with what their strengths are. That you leave those people, there's other people that have other strengths in terms of different things that they're doing. But again, I think what we tried in the beginning when this first came about, this when I got into the movement, from what I saw, was it seemed like everybody was trying to do that and had all these different ideas, but nobody knew how to apply it. And finally, we've had it applied, and things are rolling in a very positive way.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I know that since we've got some of these things coming up, obviously with the Americans for Equal Share Parenting, obviously we have Eric Sinderman out there and his group putting together the Million Parent March. These are great opportunities for you to meet and build relationships with other people that are just like you. They're going through this. Maybe they're at a lower point. Maybe they're at a higher point. But it's all about building relationships, relying on people, because these people can obviously become your, what we call in the business world, peer mentors, where you say, hey, look, and I bounce this off of Bud all the time. I don't see Bud as higher or lower than me in this. We're both equals on an equal playing field, and we talk to each other. We bounce things off each other, and we say, oh, what about this? What do you think on this? And it's obviously, it helps because you're going to get a different perspective, somebody that's outside of your shoes before you ever open your lips to say something. You're going to get the perspective of someone else who can see from the outside looking in what's going on.
Yeah, well, also, Jay, too, I think it's exactly as you said. We all put our pants on the same way, kilts from Mr. Jim Cropper out there, because I know I'd catch slack for that. We all put our pants on the same way, and even the people that are just getting into this movement, for the people that have been in it, someone like me who's been in it a little while, someone like you, Jay, you can always learn different things or perspectives, even when someone's first coming. Don't close your ears to anybody. Again, there's nobody better than anybody else in this movement. There's nobody. We're all human beings, and we're born loved, right? Just like our children, we're born loved, we're born pure, and every human being deserves the natural right to be a healthy, loving parent to their child. That's what you have to
right. And I know that there are so many. Specifically, we've found out that there are so many courts out there that we're dealing with because they're bringing up the Far From Normal radio show. Those courts out there in Arizona, North Carolina, all of those different things, and especially out there in New Jersey, where our good guy is, Mr. Peter McNeil. Love you out there. You're still on the milk carton.
Yes. I love that. Ollie always says when it comes to Pete, he's so cute. He is. He just want to pitch. He's just so cute. He is. We love Pete. He is, isn't he? He is. For people that don't know Pete, he is the most benevolent, kind, honest man. He's old school respect, old school. Certain things. What I love about Pete too is his purity. Certain things they don't calculate, like that's the sort of BS and the he can't figure it out. So again, we miss Pete. It's going to be fun to have him back. And again, he looks good on that milk card, but it's going to be good. What we'll have to have him do somehow, Jay, is you'll have to like superimpose or something. So when he comes back, we won't tell him when he comes jumping out of the milk carton. Wow, he's back! Oh my God! Be like a WWE entrant. Hit you with a chair.
I know I sound repetitive, right? I know I do. But can you see this?
Yes. Somewhat.
Yes. 558 million. Is that correct?
Yep. So this is what was paid out last year from the federal government to the United States individually in federal Title IV, the incentive money.
Wow.
This is what states.
Staggering.
This is why states are listening to us. So this number right here, this number, that's why states are listening. This is what they have to lose. This is why we have to change passwords 4 times before we can get logged into the show on Tuesday.
Yep.
This is why. And this doesn't include payments under, see that 3,600,000, I can't see it backwards. So that doesn't include any foster care money. It doesn't include any administrative cost money. It doesn't include any excess fees, they call them. It includes nothing. That is simply $558 million is simply Title IV incentive money.
Well, you know what's funny, Jeff? The people that the legislators that say they don't know about this.
They're liars.
Come on. Of course you do.
The only other, listen, hold on. The only other program that pays out money like this is Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood federally paid out $500 million to kill our babies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's okay. So they can kill them through this system, or they can kill them through Planned Parenthood.
Right. So your choice is, do you want your child to die through attrition, or do you want them to die immediately? And I think that that's atrocious, because obviously these, when a heartbeat is created, I believe that's when life is created.
My husband and I had this very conversation the other night.
My wife and I have too, yeah.
If death is, if we terminate life support on, say, an elderly person, and we determine that death is at the time that the heartbeat stops, then why would we not determine
Great point.
opposite of when life starts? If it ends at a heartbeat, it must start at a heartbeat. And our federal dollars are giving $500 million to kill these babies who have a heartbeat.
That's insane. And I know our good friend out there who was with us for a very, very short time. We did an interview with her, Maddie Shea Mitchell. Just, I know that I don't know how she does it. I really don't. Dealing with some of these issues where babies are on life support.
Yeah, she deals with some tough ones. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's just, that's got to be the toughest advocacy job out there that I can even imagine. And I know that she's done great work with it. I believe it's I am Liam. I'll have to check the website again.
Yeah. I believe you got it. Yeah, I believe you have it.
And it's just, it's some interesting work, but at the same particular time, I would think it would have to be heartbreaking, and you'd have to be in tears every single night going through some of those issues. But I know a lot of you guys are out there that are going through your particular issues right now. A lot of you, I've received several different phone calls, people who have been on the edge of suicide and who have watched the show, and because the show was going on, obviously we've made a change and a difference in your atmosphere, and we greatly appreciate you. We love you. You are loved in this. We are in here doing what we do for you each and every week. In fact, Bud, when we started this radio show a year and a half almost ago, we said if we touched one person and changed their life, it would be worth it.
Yeah, we actually said that in the beginning when we got this together. We say, what do we got to lose? We said, what the hell? We're just going to go, and it's morphed into this. I get a lot of messages, in particular, right after we do the shows. Usually when we go off the air, I get hit. And last week, I got messages from all over. I mean, Rome, Italy, everywhere. Australia, get a lot of Australia, UK, everywhere around the world you can think of. And it's the same thing, obviously, men, women, wives or girlfriends writing to me for a lot of times their husbands and or boyfriends, because they, the male in their lives, if that's the case, a lot of times it's hurting. A lot of times I'll have, more rare, I have males that will write in reference to their wives or girlfriends and how, what they can do. A lot of times I'm contacted by the women. It's just, my point to that is, it's astronomical. And also, quickly, a side note to the people I haven't gotten back to yet, I will. As I said, stay patient. And people are very, very appreciative, and I'm appreciative too for your patience. Again, the different time zones too. I can't keep up on that, Jay, because it's always all over the place. So, as people know, I'm usually up. It fluctuates 24/7, as Jay is, and I know the rest of us.
Yeah, and I would say that here's a great recommendation for the women out there. The women out there, if you are supportive of your husband, there's a great group out there out of Illinois that came out of Illinois Fathers for Equality. It's called WIFE. That's a great one. And it's WIFFE. And then there's also Women for Equal Share Parenting that's out there. Great groups, great people that are behind those. They can get you in touch with amazing other people outside of that group even that can empower you and get you motivated to do some very positive things. Honestly, there isn't and then there never will be a Martin Luther King of this movement. I don't believe that that's true. There's going to be thousands of Martin Luther Kings. I believe that that's the case. It's going to be a unified effort. And we need you to step up and be one of those people. We need you to step up and take a leadership position. So
I don't think this movement has a face.
Mhm.
You know,
I think that the face of this movement really is
Child.
the children of this movement. Yeah,
Right.
it's the children.
Well, because we've said, guys, we're gonna be.
Martin Luther King, you know, issue is, I'm gonna say it the way it is, okay? Because you dads, you want to sit there and you want to sit behind a computer and you want to message people all day and you want to complain about the problem and you want to complain about your ex and you want to complain about the child support and you want to complain about this and you want to complain about that while you're sitting there hitting keyboards, but you won't get out there and do anything. That is a problem to me.
Right.
So if and it is.
Right.
It is.
And I think that there is a place for the keyboard warrior to a degree, but there's also, you got to step out from behind the keyboard every once in a while as well. You've got to hit one of these rallies. You've got to build friendships and relationships in person and try and get to some of these things, because without them, yeah, you can build relationships long term over the internet with somebody in the UK, but if you never meet them, you don't know them personally. Knowing them personally and really feeling the sentiment of what they go through or what they've been through is completely different. It's on a different level, to where you have so much loving admiration for people. I mean, I've met Jesse West Sr. in person. I've met Chad Loudermilk in person. I've met Mark Ludwig in person.
Yeah, I was jealous. I remember that day.
Yeah, let me tell you, these guys are genuine people. Even behind the scenes.
Absolutely. And we've said it before. Mark is the one I've had the most interaction with, because of just, we've had him on the show a bunch, and he's just love Mark and everything else he's doing. And Mark is absolutely, that's another one, consistency. Awesome dude, very genuine guy, a very kind man. I've used the word benevolent, I think, about 3 times so far, and that seems to be the theme tonight. That's a great problem to have when you're using that word a lot. So again, it's great. I know he's excited. He's running around like a chicken with his head cut off. He's so busy. Yeah. It's got to be even worse until after the 20th. So Mark, we love you, and don't worry about us, because I'm sure we won't hear from you much till we get down there. So don't worry about it. Just keep breathing, Mark. Yep. He tells me I motivate him. He motivates me too. Love you, buddy.
Yeah, that's great. And I know that we're kind of getting into our 15 minutes left of this segment already. So we're getting down to the brass tacks of things, unfortunately, where the show slows down. We talk about a few things and then we get right in to our shout outs for the evening. But we definitely want to say we are in full support of all the groups that are out there doing specifically amazing things, showing equality, showing what it's all about. I know that there's going to be some exciting things coming up, even for the Far From Normal radio show beyond the 20th. Next week, live on this program, it will be the Far From Normal comedy. It'll be the comedy double hour.
This is exciting.
It's twice for one price.
Yes, well, I know with Claudia, we were going to bring it up when she's here. And I'll just say for Claudia, if she's listening out there, and left it for this to her, we are going to discuss that room you posted last year. Because I want to know why you didn't stay in your car instead of that hellhole, that closet, that roach closet that you sent the picture of on Facebook. So yeah, we're going to have to find out about that room and all the details around that. Or lack of details. It looked like just a kind of a sterile. Well, it didn't really look sterile, but there wasn't much in it, I should say.
I don't know that it was much sterile. That there was
right, exactly.
Wow.
The sheets were walking around by themselves. Well, I shouldn't say themselves. I think there was one sheet, and I think it was leaning against the wall.
He was probably stuck to the wall. It was unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they used the sheet as the door too. They leaned it up again. Yeah.
Exactly. And so we will have Miss Claudia Stovala. She is a comedian out there in the New York, New Jersey area. She tours all over Las Vegas, Nevada, and all over the United States. So she is very, very busy out there and is making time out of her schedule to come on the Far From Normal radio show next week in our first hour. And in our second hour, Mr. Jeff Lampton. And Jeff Lampton is doing a comedy routine. He's also done several tours out there with different comedy routines and companies out there. But he has experienced the family court from the perspective of a father. He is going to do a comedy bit in a comedy routine touring. And it is all about the family court system, specifically the family courts. So you're going to get a perspective from a dad and be able to laugh at the crap that goes on in the family court system, because you got to laugh at it. I mean, it's comical.
Right.
So the part I love about this guy is he almost reminds me of like the George Carlin guy. Like,
yeah.
Love him. I've been watching his, things on YouTube. I've been following his page, and he just really, George Carlin exposed the government for what it was in a comic way, in an understandable way, in a way where he could reach millions of Americans on a just plain language point of view. So I was really impressed with this guy from that perspective.
Yeah, and amazing. And I know that Jesse did a wonderful job in getting us Jeff. Jeff reached out to her and wanted to be on the show, and we greatly obliged in doing so. And it just happened to be that we had already talked to Claudia Stovala, and so we thought, hey, why not put them together? It's a great comedy night. You guys will be able to laugh, be entertained a little bit, forget about your issues for the week, and then we'll roll into DC while we're laughing our butts off. So
right. Exactly.
So it's going to be amazing stuff next week. Really, right here on Facebook, live at 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll definitely start out with Claudia Stovala. And Claudia, I'm believing when I talked to her, she actually is a daughter of a divorced couple. So you'll get that perspective as well. So she is a child of divorce. So you'll get that perspective. You'll also get the perspective of comedy and the routine there. So great stuff coming up next week with our comedy show. Should be amazing. I'll be working on the flyer later this week, and we'll try and make it somewhat themed comedy. So it'll be a great show. We'll be entertaining for a week. Entertaining.
Yeah, we've got a lot coming up, Jay. We've got that. We've got after the Washington event. We're booked right up, and we're appreciative. Again, as Jay said, even though we are booking in the future, keep them coming. Emails, requests. We have people answering those and looking at them. Again, if it takes us a little time, keep emailing, keep writing. We appreciate it, and we'll try and get you on as quick as we can when we do our schedule.
Yeah, definitely 100%. I know for sure the 29th we'll have Nathan Allentoff, who we were going to have on before, but unfortunately had to cancel out and reschedule with us. We'll have him on. He's from the FCLU. So we'll have that broadcast, and we may have some special surprises down the road. What those are, Jesse?
Jay loves to do that. I wait for it. Go ahead, Jess.
Yeah. So in this movement, I kind of talked about earlier connecting with other people and things of that nature. And in Florida, we really lack attorneys who are willing to expose the system. Not just expose this system, but first be educated in the system and what the system is doing. So I met this great attorney online. So I met this person online who connected with me, and I connected with him, and he has a law firm in Orlando. I'm very skeptical of attorneys. You know, we all know why.
Right.
And I usually vet attorneys for a very long time before I start to talk with them and discuss the issues and things of that nature. But this guy, his name's Eddie Miejas, and he's from AAA Family Law in Orlando, and he knew about Senate Bill 668, like right off the bat about it. So because I don't know if there's another attorney outside of Melissa that has known about that. He knows about the extortion from family courts. He's not afraid to challenge judges and DCF and Title 40 funding. He knows about it being a cash cow. So I was totally impressed with him. So on June 5th, we'll have him on to discuss Title 40 funding, the fatherlessness of our nation, and what is at the foundation of it. And then following that, we will be having Thomas Fiddler on.
Absolutely.
Thank you. See, people that saw the middle of the show, me almost explode, and then have to kind of totally play it out because I had no idea. Thank you. That was what I got all excited about, and I had to hold my breath, and my tongue is half bitten off. My tongue is half bitten off from having to bite it. So thank you, Zeth, for relieving the pressure. Thank you for relieving the pressure.
Exactly. So you said Eddie Miejas, and we'll be on June the 5th, and then we'll also have Thomas Fiddler in the future. We'll buckle that down, and we'll definitely get that event out as soon as possible.
Yes, you heard right, Mr. Tom Fiddler, the founder of the Fathers' Rights Movement. Awesome.
Awesome. So let's, without further ado, get into our shout outs for the evening here. Yeah, definitely. Let's go Butvino.
Whoa, I'm first tonight. Okay. First off, I want to, on a sad note, I want to just give a shout out to Heather Chapman, who I went to high school with, and she lost her brother over the weekend, 37 years old. So a shout out to Heather, the Chapman family, his wife, Eric's wife, Jackie, man's name was Eric Chapman, 2 young children. Much love to Heather, to Eric's wife, Jackie, and their 2 boys, and the entire Chapman family. We love you. Keep your heads up. Try to. I can't even imagine. You're loved very much, Heather and family. Jeff, I will get on a different note here. I want to give a shout out to Jeff, and I call him Jeff F because I have no idea how to pronounce his last name. But Jeff has opened up a new business called the Lakeside Slasher Studios, and I give a shout out to him too because he's a great guy. He's been doing this. He started this business recently. I've known him for a couple of years, and he does movie authentic masks for the Friday the 13th franchise. And he is definitely a very talented guy, and he's backed by a lot of heavy hitters and actors and actresses out there. And I know he's going to be doing a lot of work in the future. So to him out there, awesome. To my wife, Allison, my littlest bestest buddy, Mason, and my biggest bestest buddy, Carter, I love you all. Kevin Moran, John Mondu, BBC, Chuck Zachary, probably down in Key West, Jay Moss, Jesse Wire, Pete McNeil, Neely, Petrie. Love you guys out there. To our guests, to Mr. Dunn, thanks for coming on. Everybody out there, keep your chins up. It's not over till you say it's over, and it's not over yet. Much love. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to go ahead and give him the whip.
Oh, woo.
All right.
That was hitting in the sky. Ooh.
Yeah, so we're getting right into Jesse Whiter.
So I think I always forget to thank my family because I know ultimately they're the ones that sacrifice for my cause in this movement, whether it's time or emotional investment or whatever it may be. So always them. To you guys for bringing me in here to the Florida Fathers' Rights Movement, to each and every guest we've had on here, to Mr. Blair Dunn today. It's very rare that we will see an attorney take a stance against this issue. So that's just amazing to me, you know, to openly come on a radio show and to take that stance, and even knowing how wrong and unjust it is a lot of them won't stand against it. So I commend you on that, for everything, to each and every guest, and to those who fight in this movement, to Mark, who above all else is just so selfless in this movement, and to everybody who's going to make it to Washington. I cannot wait to meet you.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. And she gets the parrot. She gets the parrot for this.
The parrot and the whip. Now, everybody out there, just know Jay's the one who picked that sound effect of the whip and the parrot. We have no idea.
I think I want to vote on that.
Yeah, I don't mind the whip. It's I don't know. I guess it's got a lot of different angles you can look at, but just with the parrot, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
sure.
Definitely. We'll take a look at it. We'll take a look at it in the future. Maybe we'll change those up a little bit. But I know obviously we've got different ones we can use. So we'll
yeah,
look into that in the future. Maybe they'll be even more interesting than these. So never know.
Pete's got the car horn. So that works.
Yes.
Brooklyn, Jersey, baby.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to definitely thank Blair Dunn for coming on this evening. He's done a fantastic job of going out there and explaining Title 4D, explaining the system and how it works, and taking the active approach to becoming the Attorney General for the state of New Mexico as a libertarian. And I know that's extremely hard coming in as a third-party candidate, trying to run a race, because you're going out there consistently trying to get just as many signatures, if not more. In a lot of cases, many states, you got to get more signatures than the Republicans and Democrats just to get on the ticket. So it's an amazing thing that this guy is doing, amazing thing that any libertarian is doing in trying to get on some of these ballots. So, and all of them that I've seen so far are pushing for family court reform and to push the issue of getting the Social Security fraud gone in this country. We need that specifically. So big shout outs to my FFN fam, to Mark Ludwig and the Americans for Equal Share Parenting, as we always say every week, Americans for Equal Share Parenting, and the many groups behind the scenes that help us each and every week. They do an amazing job on the board of keeping us informed of different events that are going on, and to get those out there. So we greatly love them and appreciate them. On the FFN board of directors, to my good buddies out there, definitely Pete McNeil, definitely Neely Petrie out there. We'll have you on. Don't worry, you will be back on. And when you do, you're going to explode. Yeah. Just as we see Miss Jessie Weiner doing an amazing job exploding on the scene every week. Mm-hmm. So we love it. And we will definitely say a big thank you as well. I know that when we appear there in Washington, D.C., there will be a company that is doing some great bumper stickers for us to hand out. They're a company called Full Bleed Printing. They produce and install high quality graphics for clients ranging from Fortune 500 companies and high-end retailers to local artists and small businesses. Their highly experienced and innovative team is fast, reliable, and meticulous, and they take immense pride in their work. So definitely check them out if you are in the New York area. Yes.
And before we get off, I want to say a little off the subject, but on the subject. Tell the ones that you love them now. Don't wait till tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Tell them now. Tell everybody you love them all the time. Absolutely. Love, don't hate. Keep it up, guys. Keep your chins up.
Absolutely. So we're going to take this out as we do every single week on the Far From Normal radio show. You are important, you are loved, and you are cared about. God bless.
Chins up, guys. Love ya.
Thank you.